Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the Salescast Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we are on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Darrell Amy.
Everyone, this is Larry. I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude for the incredible support you've shown since Selling in a Post-Trust World book launched earlier in August. Thanks to you, Selling in a Post-Trust World is making waves and helping sales professionals everywhere build authentic relationships. If you haven't grabbed your copy yet, head over to barnesandnoble.com and order yours today. And here's a special thank you. When you leave a review of the book, we'll give you instant access to our exclusive Selling in a Post-Trust World private podcast. This 12-episode series dives deeper into each chapter, offering actionable insights to elevate your sales game. Don't miss out. Order your copy, leave a review, and unlock exclusive content designed to help you sell from the heart. For more details, go to sellinginaposttrustworld.com. Thank you. Thank you for being part of this movement. Together, we're transforming the world of sales, one authentic relationship at a time.
Hello, and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
What isn't going on? Great seeing you. We're in for a treat today. Let me tell you, there's all kinds of things happening here at Selling from the Heart, Darrell.
You want some authentic leadership? You want some authentic selling? We've got Dan Owolabi in the house today. This is going to be an incredible conversation. And here we are, Larry. This year is wrapping up quickly in the sales world. And I got to say, I love just the interactions we get to have with various people in the Selling from the Heart audience and community that are really dialed in right now and are focused. And I want to just give a huge shout out to all of our friends in the Medicare space who are out there getting it done. AEP is upon us, and you guys have a couple months of really hard work ahead, and we are cheering you on here at Selling from the Heart.
Here, just a shout out. There's three individuals that I just want to give a massive shout out to. We're going to be talking about authentic leadership today. I know we are. These are three authentic leaders: Jim Bletzer, Brian Shaner, Sean Johnson. You guys bring your heart to the forefront. It shows because you lead with it and your salespeople sell with it.
Absolutely. Here. So we're cheering you on. This is going to be a great Q4, and no better way to get fired up than our guest today. We're honored to host Dan Owolabi. He's the executive director of Branches Worldwide, a nonprofit that's dedicated to supporting high impact entrepreneurs around the globe. With decades of leadership experience, Dan is not only a sought-after keynote speaker, but also an esteemed member of the Global Leadership Summit faculty. I had the privilege of seeing him present not long ago. Just incredible. Dan's collaborated with leaders in over 15 countries, fostering authentic leadership to serve communities effectively. He's also the author of the book, Authentic Leadership, an Amazon #1 new release that explores the nuances of genuine leadership practices. Currently, he holds a degree in American leadership and is completing his doctorate in global leadership. And it is so awesome to have Dan here to share insights from his extensive experience in his book, discussing the transformative power of authentic leadership in both business and today in the sales context. Dan, welcome to Selling from the Heart. It is awesome to have you here.
Hey guys, it's good to be here. It's great to see you.
We're grateful to have you. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as we get started in this conversation, Dan, you know the question that every guest on the Selling from the Heart podcast answers. And I'm curious to hear what you have to say to this question. What does it mean to you to sell from the heart?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I love the fact that you ask the same question over and over and over again, because that gives kind of a nice broad perspective. I think for me, selling from the heart really has to do with connection and authenticity. It has to do with really wanting what's best for the person across from you, and then communicating that to them in a way that helps them see that I actually want what's best for you. Whether you buy from me or not, I do believe my product is the best. I do believe that I can help you. but I want you to make that decision. And so they need to feel that sense of relationship first before they sense the results from the product that you're offering. And I think that sense of selling from the heart is really, really important. So that's how we try to approach it.
Oh, hey, Dan, this is so good. You used a word near and dear to me, and I'm hoping before we get started in this wonderful conversation, we just unpack it through your lens. You used the word connecting. Mm-hmm. And I'm a massive believer in how well you connect and how well you relate to people. So when you start saying connecting, what's connecting look like to Dan? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think connecting, there's levels to connecting. I mean, part of it is understanding the context that you're in and really trying to present yourself in a way that says, hey, I'm here to help you. And so there's a lot that goes into that, the way you enter a room, the way that you listen to people. But ultimately, it's positioning yourself to understand someone else's story and to understand someone else's perspective. When they feel like you get them, you get what their problems are, you get what's at stake for them, then people start to feel a sense of connection with you. And then obviously you're best positioned to serve them, but they feel like you're somebody who's there to serve them. And then from there, you can do all kinds of things because you've gained influence.
I love it. I love it. And we talk so much in the Selling from the Heart podcast about influence. And, the great John Maxwell says leadership is influence. Sales is influence. So as we're here today talking to one of the world's foremost leadership experts, this concept of authentic leadership, and by the way, congratulations on your book. It's so exciting to see this get traction in the world because we're such passionate believers here in authenticity. Why, from your perspective, do you think authenticity is so crucial for great leadership?
There's a general answer to that, and then there's a specific answer. I think the general answer is, it's really important that you're authentic because if you're trying to be somebody else, there's not a lot of traction there. What you want to do is you want to position yourself to actually help somebody over a long period of time. And if you're constantly trying to figure out who you are and trying to, put on a different face every time you meet a different person, that's just not sustainable. And you won't actually make any sort of progress as a leader. So that's the general answer. The more specific answer, it's a fantastic question, is that this generation craves authenticity. I mean, people can smell a fake a mile away. Mm-hmm. And so if you are an authentic leader, you have a distinct advantage because you're not concerned about posturing or pretending. You really are comfortable with who you are, and people love that. You get traction much faster than if you have a slick sales pitch or even a great product or whatever. If you're the type of person that people want to follow because you are who you are, that's a great advantage.
I want to dive into this a little bit deeper because I just love this. And I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, Dan, and I had flashes of my business coach just flashing in my eyes and flashing through my mind is because we got this deep conversation one day about authenticity. And I asked him, how would you define this? What does it look like? And he gave me a one-word answer, and it was congruency.
Oh, that's good.
And we started to peel this back some more, right? Does the walk match the talk? So I'm going to throw this back at you, Dan. And how would you define authenticity, and why is this so mission critical in today's times?
Yeah, the definition that I gave for authenticity in the book is being the best version of yourself in the service of other people. And I think I love that your business coach used that word because I think I would take another level and I would say, maybe a different tack. I'd say it's congruency, it's integrity as well. It's being the same inside and out to the point that you can deal with a lot of stress and you can deal with a lot of rejection, but yet still know kind of who you are and where you're headed and what you're meant to do in the world. And I think the reason why that's a mission critical thing is the very best leaders can endure a lot of rejection over time. They're the ones who can really sort of push things forward, even when things don't look like they're coming together. And when you have integrity, it means that even if people on the outside say that, this isn't going to work, your sense of purpose on the inside is so clear and so compelling. You are being who you're meant to be in the service of other people. So you're leading with that sense of clarity and passion and purpose. So even if things aren't going the way you want them to, you can still push forward, you can still move forward because it's who you are from the inside out. That's how you're leading. I think that's critical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to push into that a little bit more because I think what we're talking about here is so critical and so relevant to the world of sales. look, we take a lot of hits and rejection in the world of sales, just as a leader does in an organization. In sales, we hear no way more than we hear yes. And it's not always delivered with a smile or politely. And even worse, we pour ourselves into working with a client. It gets to the end of the deal and we don't win it, and Larry and I were just talking in a previous conversation about the reality of there's so much ego in the sales world. There's a lot of ego in the leadership world that goes, but I think that maybe a lot of this ego has to do with a lot of the emotional baggage we're carrying around because of all the hits we've taken along the way. And here's where I'm going with this, Dan. I just absolutely love how you talk about in one of your recent articles how self-awareness is so critical for leadership, and we believe here at Selling from the Heart for sales success as well. Unpack for us your perspective on why self-awareness is such a critical first and ongoing step, I would guess, in terms of being an authentic leader and sales professional.
Man, that's such a fantastic question. I think self-awareness doesn't get enough play. I think we should talk about it way more often. I think if you're going to try to influence people, part of your job is to be yourself, right? Part of your job is to show up and be there to serve them. Like that's really important. The other part of your job is to understand how they perceive you. And I think sometimes we get caught up in being authentic and being kind of who we want to be and who God's made us to be and that kind of stuff, which is really important. But we forget that it's really important to be perceived in a certain way. So it doesn't mean you're acting differently, or it doesn't mean that you're sort of changing who you are, but it does mean that you're aware of how they see you and you're willing to kind of make some adjustments to your personality or adjustments to your behavior so that you put your best foot forward. The way that I talk about it in the book is that self-awareness is a lot like trying to read the outside of a bottle from the inside.
Right. It's hard to do.
Yeah. When you're inside yourself, it's really hard. But if you can ever get outside yourself, if you can understand how people see you, and there's a lot of different ways to do that, that'll make a huge difference in your life. And the story I tell is that, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier before we started the podcast, I'm 6'4" in black. And so those of you who are listening right now, that's who I am. That's the way that's the way I'm perceived in the world. It's really important for me to understand what that means, both in the city that I live in, and then when I travel around the world for branches worldwide, it's really important to understand what that means. So I was in Thailand a couple years ago, and I was walking around, and I'm by far the tallest person there, like by far, And I didn't have and I'm going to say this with tongue in cheek, I didn't have as much self-awareness back then as I do right now. And so I'm just walking around, kind of doing my thing, just being me, I'm picking food up, whatever. And I think I was in this it was like this huge venue where there was a bunch of tents out. It was like a carnival, and people were serving hot food, cold food. They were selling the wares, whatever. It was like a big carnival. Anyway, I'm just walking, and I happened to just trip, and I tripped, and I grabbed on one of the tents to kind of steady myself, and the whole tent shook. It didn't fall, but the whole tent shook. People screamed, like literally, like people went running and ducking, and like an elephant came through and started, And I realized that in that moment, like when I walked around, everybody was on pins and needles because like this guy he's the biggest person we've ever seen. And so when I tripped, like everybody felt weird. Everybody felt like insecure. The point I'm making is that if I would have understood how I was perceived, I would have carried myself a little bit differently. I would have acted a little bit differently. And I think that knowledge, knowing the context you're going into, so that you can position yourself to be as influential and as helpful as possible is really important. You can't forget how you're perceived.
Oh, hey, I'm giving you a high five. I got to give you a virtual high five on this, Dan, because I love the word perception.
Yeah. And
I don't think there's enough play on perception, especially in the sales and leadership world, is whether you want to believe, while the listeners or the viewers may not believe perception's reality, at least through my lens, it is to some degree, is we got to be willing to set ego aside and look at this through the perception lens of somebody else.
Right.
Because we got to set all this aside and say, okay, I know how I want to be perceived, but how are people really perceiving me? And we got to be willing to take it, because sometimes it's going to hurt, but that's how we grow.
But Larry, let me add to that. That's fantastic. I mean, I think there's an insecurity in being obsessed with how people perceive you, and we all know that. And so sometimes people push against that. But there's also another side of caring about what people think that's in the realm of maturity, where you are so secure in who you are that you can really wear whatever it takes. You can look however it takes to really kind of get into someone else's heart. A great example of that is one of the most authentic leaders I've ever seen, or I've ever heard of, Abraham Lincoln. Before he becomes president, he gets a letter from a little girl that says, "Hey, you probably should grow a beard because it makes you look a little bit more mature." And he's trying to patch together the Union. And he's like, "Shoot, this is not about me. If I need to grow a beard, if I need to wear a dress, I'll do whatever it takes. I need to win people over." And so he grows this beard. And it's not about him wanting to have a beard or not wanting to have a beard. It's about him being very aware that his role as a leader is a role about perception. And so people will behave a certain way when he has a beard as opposed to when he doesn't. And he wants to promote certain behavior in people. And so he does that. And he puts himself aside. Right. So that's another level of authenticity that has less to do with his own insecurity and more to do with wanting to help people.
I love that. And by the way, I hope I never get a letter from a little girl asking me to grow a beard, because
he can't grow a beard, Dan. He can't grow a beard.
That's just authentic right there, Dan.
That's good. That's good.
This, and we got to share this article in the show notes. You're going to really want to follow what Dan's doing because it is so powerful. But in this article, you talk about the 4 self-awareness archetypes. And it's just this beautiful grid where you unpack what we've been talking about, where you've got to have awareness of yourself internally from the inside of the bottle. Like, I love that perspective. And you've got to have awareness from yourself from externally. What are people, how are people experiencing you and seeing you? And so here's what I think, and I'm curious about this. So in sales, we were taught really early on in sales, the platinum rule. And the golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you, of course. Platinum rule is do unto others as they would, prefer you do unto them. Horrible translation. But the platinum rule, we learned to be very adaptive and pay attention to the people that we're meeting with, in terms of relational fit or task focus, slow or fast pace, all of that, which I think is great. But I think what may have been missing in this, and this is something that is so important for the sales world, is to blend that with internal or personal self-awareness. Because what happens in this grid, you talk about someone that is externally self-aware, but not really internally self-aware. They're this pleasers. They can be so focused on appearing a certain way to others that they could be overlooking what matters to them. And this, I think what you have in that box in this article of low self-awareness and high external awareness describes so many sales professionals.
Yeah. And I think that you're hitting on something that's really, really important. I think in order to be a true influencer, you've got to be somebody who has sort of deep convictions and deep values. And people love to follow people like that. They believe that you're going somewhere, and then you've got non-negotiables. And you've got to be really clear about who you are, where you're headed, and how you feel about certain situations, and when to kind of bring that out and say, that's not right. Or let me tell you something that I'm thinking that is really important that you need to know. Like, having that deep sense of internal self-awareness really is what transforms you into an influencer, as opposed to being someone who just sort of molds into the environment that you're in. You're able to actually steer the environment once you've made a connection with people.
Powerful.
So here's a question for you. In looking at this through Dan's lens for a moment, who exudes some of this out in the leadership space right now? Who are some of the most authentic leaders that Dan looks up to, and why?
That's a great question.
I'm throwing you on the spot, Dan.
I know. Well, I'm going to tell you one person that I think is really good. I've met him a bunch of times. We have a fairly good relationship. Arwen McManus, I think, is a strong example of that. And I'll tell you why.
Big fan.
Yeah. He writes with integrity. He writes what he's experiencing. If you've ever seen him dress, he dresses in a way that's like, hey, this is who I am, and I understand that it's weird. Like, he's like very aware of that, But at the same time, the way he writes is actually coming at some of the most critical, important needs in our generation. And so he's very aware of what people are going through. So he knows who he is, but he also knows how to position himself to be the best help for other people. So he really combines that internal self-awareness with that external self-awareness. And so he's a master at that. He's really good.
Yeah, here on that. And, it's interesting. I'm so intrigued about his work on frequencies of communication. And I think that this concept of external self-awareness, being able to communicate and do unto others the way that they would prefer, and blending that with this knowing who you are, this conviction, this clear set of values. I think this is, in so many ways, the missing piece for a lot of really good-hearted salespeople who really are trying to help and make a difference, but have yet to do the inner work. So where do you begin? Coach us, if you would, on where do you begin to do the inner work? You're listening in, it's people listening in going, okay, Larry's been telling us to do the inner work for years, but Dan's convinced me it's time to get started. What would you recommend we do to start this inner journey of self-awareness?
Yeah. So, I would start with a little bit of context. I would say that, the inner work is really about coming out with a set of values and virtues that you think are non-negotiable for yourself and for the people that you love, frankly. Like, hey, look, me and my house, this is what we believe we are going to do. And you can't force people in your house to do that, but you could say, hey, as far as it depends on me, I want all of us to live these values. So that's really important. But it's really important to understand that suitcase has to be really small. Like, I think sometimes people have way too many non-negotiables, and they're dragging it around. If you imagine taking an international flight, you've got like all this check luggage, and how nimble are you going to be? Like, not
one carry-on. That's all you get.
Exactly. And so it's important to have a small set of values that are really important. One activity that I've seen work really well, I've done this with a bunch of people as we're coaching individuals, is you take a bunch of Post-it notes. I don't know if you guys have seen this before. You take a bunch of Post-it notes and you put them in a stack, and then you say, hey, I want you to write down all the things that are important to you. As many as you can think of, and you can categorize it. So like your favorite shirt, your favorite team, your family, your wife, your husband, your kids, whatever. You just write them all down, and you've got a whole desk full of sticky notes. Well, the activity goes through 5 or 6 rounds, and every round you've got to remove things that are less important and only keep the ones that are very important. And you should see people sweat. By the time you get to the last round, and they've got to pick between their dog and their kids, or they got to pick between honesty and making money, there's oh my gosh, you really have to think deeply about the kind of person that you want to be. What are you going to leave on the table? What are you going to take off? And what you find then is that once you get down to the very few, you have to keep 3 on the table, 4 on the table. You can't combine. People get very thoughtful and very somber about the things that matter most to them. And once they look at it and they say, okay, these are the values I would die for. That key right there is really critical. If you've got those 3 or 4 things that you're doesn't matter where I'm in the world, doesn't matter what culture I'm dealing with, doesn't matter what job I have, doesn't matter what happens to me, I will die for these things. If you get to that place, then you're going somewhere, right? Then you end up in any crowd and say, nope, I'm not doing it. That's not who I am. I'd rather die than that.
Oh, this is so good. I'm sitting here thinking, and I don't know why, but this is what popped into my head. I'd be curious your thoughts on this. I think this plays out with what you just said so eloquently. This plays out with what I call or refer to as relational health. Is the relationships that not only that you have with yourself, a lot of this stuff that you're talking about plays out in the relational health you have with your friends, your family. Now, if I translate this into the sales world, it's the type of clients you choose to associate with, or the types of future clients you hope to associate with. is all of this. Just imagine just for a second, if this was all aligned, I think some of the anxiety that a lot of salespeople and sales leaders have would go away, because how many times are we doing business with someone that really doesn't share our same values and shares our same core values? And all of a sudden we wonder why there might be some anxiety or some disagreement or something like that. Is we're the freaking polar opposite ends of what we value. Exactly. You get what I'm going with that? You get where I'm cooking this?
I do. Yeah, Larry, I think that's fantastic. That is great. I feel like I should pay you for a counseling session right now. That is really good. I think,
hey, come to the Selling from the Heart virtual couch anytime, Dan.
That's right.
That's right. I love that. And I think the reality is, and we've seen this in our consulting practice, what we've seen oftentimes is that when people get really upset, when they get really mad, or there's a lot of anxiety in their life, somewhere in one of their relationships, somebody is actively violating their values. And it's just making them, it's going to the core of like, good people wouldn't do this, or like that part, the fact that it makes something so small, oftentimes makes you so angry. It's a key to help you understand that is a very, very important value of yours. We let other things go, like, oh, well, he said that, or she said that, or he did whatever. But the things that stick in your mind and stick in your craw, there's a good chance that that's a value. And so then you need to, just like you said, sort of do some excavating and get to the place where you start to understand, okay, to have healthy relationships, I've got to surround myself with a lot of people who share my values. Not everybody, right? You've got to associate with some people who are different than you, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm reflecting on my career in sales. I'm reflecting on an appointment I went on earlier this week. And I won't say who it was, but I left that appointment going, I'm not working with this person. Like, I'm not going to pursue this relationship, because even though it might be financially advantageous, there's like, no, it's not even close on the value alignment. And as a result, I know if I got in that, at a minimum, I'd be miserable. The reality is it probably wouldn't last long anyways. These are hard questions for salespeople to ask, but I think important when they think about their target accounts. So this is such a great conversation. What's your favorite part as we wrap up? I'm just curious. Authentic leadership. I know everyone listening in, whether you're a sales leader or a sales professional, and remember, leaders are influencers, salespeople are influencers. You're a leader. You're going to want to get a copy of Authentic Leadership. What's one other thing you think folks in the sales world would really benefit from learning from your latest book?
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple elements in the book I think that are really helpful for sales professionals, but I think the element of understanding other people, I think that's something that salespeople do really well if you're successful. But the element in the book that if I could rewrite it and put it in again, and I think I've done a little bit of work on this before, is the idea of cultural intelligence. Like, how important is it that you know the cultural moment that we're in right now, and that you take a lot of care to really try to understand where people are coming from, both from like a personality perspective, hey, whatever, but then also from a cultural perspective, and really getting good at being yourself and connecting with a wide variety of people who are totally different than you. And I think ultimately, not just doing it just for the sake of doing it, but doing it for the sake of driving someone to a better place and saying, I want to connect with them and I want to take ownership of this relationship so that I can move them to a better place. Like, really thinking deeply and actually taking responsibility for a small part of responsibility for their growth in the right direction. I'm going to try to connect with them culturally, relationally, socially, so that they can continue to get better. I'm that confident in my values and that confident in what I'm offering, that I'm going to connect with them so that I can move them to this place. I really want to see them get better. That's a big key that I would emphasize.
Oh, this is so good, Darrell.
Yeah, what a great conversation. Dan, I know everybody listening in is thinking this one question. This one question is, how do I get more Dan Owolabi in my life?
Yeah. There's a couple different ways. We've got a lot of cool things going on. I mean, obviously, you can follow me on social media, LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm really active on LinkedIn. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. Our website, danowolabi.com. That's a great place to connect with me there. I'd love to come out and help your team. If there's anything I can do there. We have a nonprofit. We work with leaders all over the globe And so that's a lot of fun. We provide leadership development, a leadership learning community for them in 18 different countries, which has been a lot of fun. And then we have a consulting firm that does incredible work too. So, whatever we can do to help, that's the best way to connect with us.
Fantastic. We'll put all those links in the show notes. Everyone's going to want to grab a copy of Authentic Leadership. Dan, thank you so much for sharing your heart with us today. This has been incredible.
You bet.
Super grateful. Thank you.
Awesome. Larry, oh my goodness, what a powerful
Darrell,
conversation.
I knew this was going to be good a long time ago when I reached out to Dan. Such a powerful message.
This concept of inner awareness and external awareness that we talked about here today has really got me thinking in terms of, and we've talked about this at Selling from the Heart. You've hit this hard in both Selling from the Heart and the first few chapters of Selling in a Post-Trust World about doing the deeper work in the inner work. But I think being able to correlate that and do also the work of external awareness, maybe some emotional intelligence we talk about with a lot of guests in the podcast, and bring those two together and watch what happens when you get high internal awareness and high external awareness. Watch the confidence and the congruence that start to emerge when you do that.
Absolutely. And you've heard me, if you follow us at Selling from the Heart, and I know y'all do, I've often said this: to know thyself is to value thyself. And if you really value yourself, which I know y'all do, you got to do the heart work. H-E-A-R-T. You got to do the heart work. It's hard work, but it pays off. All the inner work you do will just monumentally grow all the layers of outer success you'll ever have.
Absolutely. So grab a copy of Dan's book, Authentic Leadership. You're going to thank yourself for this. I have a feeling it won't be the last time we talk about this. This has been so good. Hey, thank you to everybody who's now not only getting your copy of Selling in a Post-Trust World, but leaving reviews. Now, I know you go, is a review really that big of a deal? The answer is yes, it is. So would you do us a favor? If you've got a copy of Selling in a Post-Trust World, would you go to the place where you bought it, whether it was at Barnes & Noble or Amazon or any of our other great retailer friends, and leave a review? It helps us spread this word about this movement of authenticity and trust right here in the sales profession. And here's the deal. If you leave a review, not only will you hear from Larry, because he reads all of them, we're also going to make sure that you get access to the Selling in a Post-Trust World private podcast. I just made that promise, Larry. We're going to fulfill this. It's a 14-episode private podcast where Larry goes deep into each chapter in this book. So please, pretty please, will you leave us a review? It's going to help spread this movement of authenticity and trust right here in this sales profession we all love. Stay tuned, like, subscribe, turn the alarm on, the notifications, because we've got an incredible roster of guests coming up this fall. You're not going to want to miss an episode.
Absolutely. I'm grateful to all of you. It's a commitment I made to everyone at the beginning of the year. We wanted to bring in new voices, fresh voices, people we look up to. And I believe we're fulfilling on our promise. Thank you to all the listeners out there. We appreciate you. We're all in this together and waving this flag around trust and authenticity in the sales profession.
That's right, Larry. So till next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust. Do the inner work and the work on external self-awareness. And most of all,
sell from the heart.